Now on WCNC Charlotte.
The old Chimney Rock is gone, but the new Chimney Rock that we're going to rebuild, it's going to be an amazing place.
It's been 1 year since Hurricane Helene devastated western North Carolina.
You watch everything you worked for 40 years. Just go down the river. Your whole livelihood gone overnight.
For many, the rebuilding is still very much a work in progress.
You know, we're just trying to get Ricky back on track.
Businesses and nonprofits still helping those in need.
You know, one of the comments that I heard over and over again from people, you know, when you'd ask, what do you need, is just, you know, please don't forget us.
Leaders at the local, state, and federal level looking at what lessons can be learned from the storm.
One of the things that we've learned is we need to be a little bit more prepared.
And while recovery will take years, some trying to see the silver lining.
What I've seen is you get a chance to do things that you wanted to do before you would never stop to do. And being forced to take a step back and say, okay, what do I want to do? Not just get open, but how do you do it right?
Hurricane Helene 1 year later starts right now.
Thanks for joining me. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here in Valley Crucis, North Carolina. This is where Hurricane Helene made some of the biggest impacts in the high country. This storm caused over 100 fatalities in western North Carolina. That's the most since Hurricane Katrina. It also caused numerous destruction from landslides, flooding, as well as downed trees. The winds gusted as high as 100 miles per hour. For more on this historic storm, let's go back to the WCNC studios.
Well, thanks for joining us here on WCNC Charlotte. I'm Colin Mayfield.
And I'm Vanessa Rufus. It has been 1 year since Hurricane Helene devastated western North Carolina. Over the next hour, you'll see stories of how people are still working to rebuild, lessons learned, and just how strong and determined our mountain communities are.
Helene made landfall as a Category 4 storm on the Florida Gulf Coast on September 26th. The storm then moved up the East Coast, decimating western North Carolina. The next day, the storm brought catastrophic inland flooding, extreme winds, landslides, and numerous tornadoes. It was the deadliest hurricane in the U.S. since Katrina in 2005.
Taking a look at some of the numbers here, the strongest wind gust in North Carolina was 106 miles per hour. That was on Mount Mitchell. Some parts of the state saw up to 30 inches of rain from Helene. 108 people in North Carolina lost their lives because of the storm. Coast Guard rescued at least 865 people in western North Carolina. And that storm caused nearly $60 billion in damages in the Tar Heel state.
Last year after Helene hit, we heard countless stories of people not getting evacuation notices ahead of the storm. WCNC Charlotte's Nate Morabito shows us how Helene has forced emergency managers to take a hard look at how they can better protect the public in the future.
Some local governments issued voluntary evacuations. Others made them mandatory. Some didn't evacuate anyone. Cell service problems and power outages also created issues for phone and internet service, which is why at least one county wants to buy emergency sirens.
They got all the trees planted today, Cynthia.
Under a blanket of clouds,
You silly frog.
two sisters
We prayed every night and thank God that we pulled through this.
share an unbreakable bond.
In a split second, it just swooshed. It took everything with it.
Neighbors call them the Mattress Sisters.
I just, for some reason, shoved her on the bed, and then away we went.
Their story of survival, clinging to a mattress during Helene,
It was literally like being torpedoed.
is so unbelievable.
I MacGyvered everything. Anything that floated by, I grabbed.
Jackie Fenstermacher and Cynthia Dunn are convinced
We were holding on to each other and the little dog was in the middle of us.
the only reasons they're alive today
If you fell off, you were gone.
are because of their faith and each other.
The water was pulling me down, and so she held on to me for about 45 minutes.
All we had on was our nightgowns, and they were ripped to shreds.
The sisters say it took 2 days for rescue crews to eventually find them downstream in a pile of debris.
And the Chinook helicopter got us.
But leading up to the flood,
No horns, no warning.
the two say the storm completely caught them off guard.
The power went off at 3, and we're like, well, now what?
That is not a position any person should find themselves in during a disaster, according to Joshua Baer.
We tend to really underestimate that risk. And the estimation of that risk is conditioned somewhat by the messaging we receive.
The Old Dominion University professor is an expert on evacuation behavior.
It was actually devastating to our family.
And knows firsthand what's at stake. His father-in-law died during Hurricane Katrina after refusing to evacuate.
Messaging that's broad and general, hey, you ought to get out, doesn't have the impact of tailored specific messaging.
Baer says it's critical we learn from every disaster, ensuring emergency managers always communicate the true risk and make sure those warnings are received.
That door-to-door, I believe, really did save lives.
In Buncombe County, where 43 people died, County Manager Avril Pinder said firefighters knocked on doors and convinced many people to leave before the county eventually issued mandatory evacuations by way of phone alerts.
We did try our best to get as much messages out in different mediums.
But Helene, with its widespread power outages, also exposed communication gaps.
One of the things that we've learned is we need to be a little bit more prepared.
As a result, Buncombe County has requested almost $12 million from the state to buy 71 sirens and 33 stream gauges. If approved, they'll better warn of impending danger along 10 creeks and rivers.
It's very easy to get severely depressed when you come out here.
Including the creek turned rushing river that destroyed Jackie Fenstermacher and Cynthia Dunn's home.
It was just devastating.
Mass notification systems might have spared the sisters from near death.
And I would have left.
And potentially saved the lives of many others who lived nearby. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Not only did Helene rip apart homes and flood roads, it also cut off what so many people needed most, a connection.
At one point, 900,000 homes and businesses were without power. The situation was particularly dire in Avery, Mitchell, and Yancey counties. And WCNC Charlotte's Tradisha Woodard spoke with cell providers and public safety officials about what they're changing to better prepare next time.
After Helene had passed, many families were stranded without power, with entire communities left to wonder if anyone even knew they were there. I spoke with different cell phone providers and public safety officials, not only about their efforts to restore power, but also on the things they're changing to better prepare for next time. After Hurricane Helene's wind and rain, there was something else. The quiet. Phones stopped ringing. Texts wouldn't send. Many families, first responders, and neighbors were suddenly cut off from the world.
Not only were they sitting without power, but we had lost so many roads and bridges that folks couldn't leave the communities where they were.
Lillian Govis is the director of communications in Buncombe County. She says for many folks, radio became the only answer. When cell towers failed and power was gone, families clinched to whatever updates they could find on those fading airwaves.
Lots of people went to their cars and listened to the radio in order to get information from us. We were doing live updates twice a day. And so our local broadcast outlets were taking that information and running it live.
Phone providers like Verizon and AT&T say they had to come up with new ways to get people connected.
So Helene changed the game. It was more assets that were needed than what was stationed there. The impact to the network was greater than anything that we had dealt with historically.
They recall the numerous amounts of barriers when it came to restoration efforts.
Being able to get eyes in the field via helicopter was the only way that we could survey the area, because the waters hadn't receded enough for us to be able to drive vehicles in to be able to restore the network.
So the biggest barriers were safety. It was about getting people, personnel, and equipment out to temporarily restore in some places.
The FCC also sharing critical factors to resolving the issue.
Staffing is a number one issue on the ground at these emergency management centers, as well as the public safety answering points or emergency 911 call centers.
Since then, companies say they've taken steps to better prepare for next time.
We're working throughout the year to harden the network, to invest in generators and HVAC and making sure the batteries work.
We have gone to new vendors to get them to produce more of our assets that we needed, and added over hundreds of assets to our fleet in order to respond to storms like this going forward in the future.
The FCC also looking at better ways to working ahead.
Are we coordinating with the right state officials, the broadcasters, the other telecommunications, emergency managers on the ground? And the third thing is looking at the FCC of how can we leverage our authorities and resources to best help our federal partners and state partners.
All to ensure one of the most powerful tools in a disaster isn't just a rescue truck, but also a working phone. Tradisha Woodard, WCNC Charlotte.
Now we know fall is one of the busiest seasons for businesses in Boone, but you might remember last fall, Hurricane Helene devastated the town.
Now, almost 1 year later, recovering businesses are hoping that you'll come visit them this year.
We're still up and coming, but that is the heart of the high country, is local businesses. So I'm hoping that people can just continue to fluctuate that money into those smaller businesses so that we can keep pushing forward.
After Helene, critical help came through programs like the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce Foundation's Hope for the High Country grants. The program awarded disaster relief funds to over 160 businesses.
And companies across North Carolina stepped up in other ways to help those in need. After the break, we'll tell you how many are still helping to this day.
Someone else who stepped up to help, NASCAR legend Greg Biffle. After the break, he reminisces on his life-saving missions 1 year later.
And a bit later, an auto body shop still looking to rebuild. How you can help them get back on their feet. When Hurricane Helene ravaged western North Carolina 1 year ago, it set off a chain reaction on the ground. A wave of volunteers converging on the mountains. They brought items like generators, water, food, just about anything needed to survive. However, 1 year later, relief groups are telling us they're struggling to keep up with demand.
It's heartbreaking because you want to help everybody as much as you possibly can. And some of these are just so difficult for one organization to help. And that's why having a coalition of so many groups together it has to happen.
Organizations say they need more money and more volunteers. They say part of the problem is most folks who don't live in the mountains don't know that the struggles remain. Lowe's sprang into action helping with disaster relief in its own backyard.
And that meant donating millions of dollars, supplies, volunteer hours even. But the Mooresville-based home store also got creative with their own relief efforts. WCNC Charlotte's Michelle Bowden shows us how the company is continuing their efforts 1 year on.
Longtime employees here at Lowe's who are used to being in disaster zones were struck by the sheer magnitude of what happened almost a year ago because of Helene, and because of that, the company got creative in their recovery efforts.
I've seen storms in Wilmington, I've seen storms in other parts of the country. Quite honestly, wasn't anticipating the amount of devastation that we saw, and just really the need from the people that were desperate for both supplies and other services.
Sean Riley is a regional vice president with Lowe's, part of a massive team helping lead the store's efforts in helping with recovery.
We're from North Carolina, so this is super personal for us, and our team took it very personally. These are communities that we live in. Our associates were also impacted.
We first met Sean in the days just after the storm blew through in Swannanoa, where entire neighborhoods were shredded. Lowe's volunteers were working alongside others, doing what they could to salvage what they could. All this while they were cleaning up their own stores. The Boone Lowe's flooded, but opened the next day so people could get much needed supplies.
Things like generators and chainsaws, long handle tools, ATVs that were utilized to be able to get up into the mountains in some areas to help get people out of their homes that have been trapped for a period of time.
But then the Lowe's leadership started thinking outside the box. At Thanksgiving, they hired local restaurants who'd been hit hard to make Thanksgiving meals to be donated to the community. And there was more.
The Arts District was completely shattered, so people lost everything. So us doing our business grants to be able to get these businesses back up and running. We had an art exhibit in our store in East Asheville that we were able to bring artists into the parking lot so that they could sell their wares.
Perhaps the most impactful thing Lowe's did, working with a Charlotte area builder to design, build, and distribute tiny homes to people who'd lost everything.
You know, Lowe's was able to do over 130 tiny homes. I think 67 of them were donated before Christmas Eve or by Christmas Eve up there, so that they could actually put them on their land. So as they were rebuilding or having construction done, that they'd have a safe place to be able to stay.
A year later, the work continues.
unfortunately still a lot of work to be done in Western North Carolina. So, one of the comments that I heard over and over again from people, when you'd ask, what do you need, is just, please don't forget us. So I think, as the year has gone by, it's, easy for us to be able to back that up and say that, we haven't gone anywhere.
One of the Lowe's stores there in East Asheville took on 14 feet of water. It was forced to close for months, finally reopened this past spring. Reporting in Charlotte, Michelle Bowden, WCNC Charlotte.
Someone else who stepped up to help, NASCAR legend Greg Biffle. He was one of the first civilian pilots to fly into the aftermath, helping save lives. Now, a year later, he's sitting down with WCNC Charlotte's Megan Malaris to share how he became an angel in the sky.
I got 4,000, 5,000 messages within an hour and a half. I haven't heard from my parents. I haven't heard from my brother, sister, or neighbor, or grandparents, or relative.
From draft to drift, Biffle faced familiar danger, threading through treacherous terrain as tight as bumpers at Daytona.
There's no recollection of a road, an embankment, no ledge, no bridge, no anything for miles down these canyons. And we see people walking with backpacks, trying to get out.
Index cards with rough coordinates acting as pace notes. One mission turned into 6 to 8 a day for 13 days, pulling out people while dropping off food, medicine, and Starlink satellites.
So the Starlink came up, their phones came on, and they literally started talking to their parents. And it's kind of chilling to think about that no one knew whether they were still alive or not.
The satellites also helped Biffle scour his social media for more tips.
And all of a sudden, I find myself at almost the center of this crisis management.
He needed more eyes in the sky. Nonprofit Operation Airdrop got hundreds of volunteer pilots to search tricky terrain where military Blackhawks and Chinooks couldn't land. Tabor Hyde is an American Airlines commercial pilot who grew up near Chimney Rock.
It really hit close to home and personal. I had one family, their house was in a landslide falling off the mountain, and the dad was waving a red flag on the roof. I loaded the kids up first and flew them down the mountain about a mile away and left them in a field. I was like, do not move, stay right here. I'm gonna come back and get your parents. Once we got them off of there, 5 minutes later, their house was gone.
So many close calls, so much desperation.
I catch out of the corner of my eye, on the very bottom of this basin, I think I see a flash. So we circled back around, and sure enough, we see this guy at the very bottom of this ravine with a mirror that was flashing us. If he wouldn't have had that mirror, there's no way we would have saw him. The hardest thing was when I went home at night and landed in the dark, because we just couldn't fly anymore, was my mind wouldn't shut off. I'm sitting there at my counter looking through my phone, just overwhelmed. Like, what am I gonna do next?
Eventually, his helicopter missions turned to ground support. Since Helene, he keeps essentials close, just in case.
Benadryl was a huge request.
No checkered flag, no victory lap in Helene. Simply hope at the stripe. Because heroes who don't wear capes figured out how to fly. Megan Malaris, WCNC Charlotte.
After the break, an Asheville auto body shop still looking to rebuild 1 year after Helene. How you can help. Right now, an Asheville-based auto body shop needs some work of its very own. After nearly 4 decades of service to vehicles and families in the area, Helene ripped right through the entire building.
And still, a year later, nothing is standing in the spot that building once did. WCNC Charlotte's Bria Smith spoke with the owner of VJ's Auto Service and Towing and his family about the impacts of Helene, plus what's next.
For nearly 40 years, family-run VJ's Auto Service was a trusted maintenance shop for vehicles in Asheville. But to those native to the area, it also provided the space for first steps.
Uh-oh, so close.
But last year, those steps erased by Hurricane Helene.
And all the tools we used to have in there, now it's all gone. It was
I don't know really how you would actually explain that.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Watch everything you worked for 40 years just go down the river. You know, your whole livelihood gone overnight.
A livelihood Ricky Brown Sr. and his wife Vivian Brown started with just a dream and some hope.
He come home one day and said him and one of his friends was going to start a mechanic shop. And I thought he was crazy. And you know, back then we didn't have that much, but I was so afraid that we was going to lose everything we had. But he made it work.
Since 1986, they have been a staple in Asheville. Brown and his crew have serviced decades of generations, but Helene destroyed 39 years of work in just hours.
And it was within an hour of him getting back home that everything was completely under. And he went and stood up on the bank somewhere and watched the doors come off. And at that point, he told his wife, he said, our building's gone.
Since the hurricane, VJ's auto service staff have been working to not only resupply the shop, but build a new one from the ground up. Longtime customer and friend Bill Stewart says they need all the help they can get.
But we're trying to get out to the community to where maybe they can reach out, because he has a lot of customers, which are also friends, you know, and I think, you know, we're just trying to get Ricky back on track.
There is a GoFundMe set up for VJ's Auto. A link to donate can be found on our mobile app. In Asheville, Bria Smith, WCNC Charlotte.
1 year after Helene, Buncombe County leaders say they still have not been reimbursed the nearly $20 million they requested from the state and federal government to rebuild. How they're getting by while waiting for that money. Right now, WCNC Charlotte, 1 year after Helene, Buncombe County leaders say they still have not been reimbursed the nearly $20 million they requested to rebuild. How they're getting by while waiting for that money.
Plus, ready for the holidays. Hurricane Helene left many Christmas tree farmers scrambling to see what they could save. But this year, growers say they are back on track.
Brewing up business, how Asheville's brewery community is bouncing back after Helene. I'm Colin Mayfield.
And I'm Vanessa Rufus. 1 year after Hurricane Helene devastated western North Carolina, Buncombe County leaders say they still have not been reimbursed the nearly $20 million they requested from the state and federal government to rebuild.
WCNC Charlotte's Siobhan Riley shows us the steps they're taking to start over with what they have.
We bought this camper like 3 days after the storm.
Nearly a year has passed since Hurricane Helene, but for James Smith and his wife, this 8 by 20-foot camper is where they call home for now.
I mean, there's blankets and pillows, and my wife has a couple books stored up there, and all my stuff's over here. And then I have some clothes in that cabinet.
Smith captured this video last year after a landslide destroyed his home during Helene. Debris still surrounds the property 1 year later.
When it first happened, we came up, my wife was behind me. She didn't want to get close to the edge because, well, hell, I mean, we really didn't know if it was going to keep going.
Though the house is still standing, it's far from livable. Inspectors warned Smith that the land remains unstable and isn't done moving.
It's a kick in the stomach, really. I'm going to have to tear this down. And I didn't build it to tear down. So that's going to be a rough day.
We're still asking for help, though.
Buncombe County Manager Avril Pender says more than 12,000 properties were either significantly damaged, slightly damaged, or destroyed after Helene. But the state started a program to help families get new homes.
One is called Hazard Mitigation Grant, so people have applied for that. In Buncombe County, we had at least 200 or so homes of families that has applied to get their homes rebuilt through that program.
So far, nearly 300 people have applied to get demolition permits. Out of that number, 100 have been approved for demolition.
When you hear those numbers, what's going through your mind right now?
So those numbers are structures. That means people lived in those structures. So what goes through my mind goes back to our friends and neighbors still need help in our community. Our friends and neighbors still need a place to call home.
Smith received $13,000 from FEMA, but that doesn't cover the more than $375,000 it would cost to build a new home.
Is progress happening fast enough for you?
Absolutely not. Because there's still people just the same as us living in campers.
They're still in the application phase right now. So progress is being made, but we have not yet seen the first hammer or any first process that starting to build the homes.
Pender says the state spoke with several contractors who said they are ready and able to do the work. In addition, the state launched a disaster case management program, allowing a case manager to guide them through the recovery process.
There's a sliding glass door in the house, in the new house.
While Smith prepares to start over, he can't help but to reminisce about the home he built with his own hands.
These are all 1x4 or 1x6 pine.
The one that stood on land his family has owned since 1987.
The amount of memories and love that was in this particular spot. You know, I grew up here as a child, then my kids grew up here, and then it's just, it's a really sad deal that's it. It's sort of the end of the legacy.
Though rebuilding is necessary, Smith says he'll miss the moments he shared with his wife and 5 children. In Buncombe County, Siobhan Riley, WCNC Charlotte.
Hurricane Helene's impact on western North Carolina was beyond anyone's imagination. Many in the area choosing to ride out the storm, not prepared for what was about to happen.
That includes a Burnsville man who was swept away in the raging floodwaters, and he's now sharing his amazing survival story with WCNC Charlotte's Kevin Kennedy.
The image is still fresh in our minds. Hurricane Helene pounding western North Carolina, blankets of water smothering and overwhelming neighborhoods. The tropical cyclone destroying more than 125,000 buildings and homes, killing close to 200 people. One of the communities hardest hit, Burnsville, North Carolina.
Bunch of debris everywhere, so much wood and crap.
The path of destruction widespread, so much damage and devastation, but woven in this mass of mayhem, a miracle. 12 hours earlier, all this was swallowed by water.
Oh my Lord.
Home video capturing the chaos as this neighborhood is under attack.
Oh gosh, there it goes. Oh my gosh.
Buildings and cars no match for the raging water. Somewhere in there is Jeffrey Silver.
My daughter saw him jump out of his house, out of the door, the front door.
His neighbors fearing the worst.
Jeff's in there somewhere. Hope he got to that island.
How could anyone survive this?
Oh God. Oh gosh. Hang on, Jeff.
You couldn't tell up from down. The water was just brown. It's all scattered up in my head. I mean, I can't explain it the way it was, but it was an ordeal.
This is Jeffrey, a survivor, but what a fight it was.
And I just done what I had to do. I was having to knock pop-up campers, oil barrels, propane gas tanks, everything, keep it from knocking me down.
The water pounding and pummeling him, his own trailer heading right at him.
My porch, actually, when I was down there, it run up on my legs and knocked me down and pinned me under the water there for a little while, and I jerked my legs out from under that porch some way. I don't know how I done it.
Seconds later, the water carries him further downriver.
I said, Lord, here I come. I said, I ain't gonna make it through this.
Still fighting. Time is running out.
I've been in the water so long then that I started getting hypothermia.
Then that miracle would happen.
That beech tree limb was just waving at me like that, and I reached up and grabbed it.
Somehow able to stand on a barbed wire fence and hang on. Water still raging around him. Jeffrey would spend the next 2 hours holding on.
I was trying to get up in the tree, and my strength was gone.
As the water receded, Jeffrey would wade through waist-deep water to reach the shore.
I never was scared. I mean, that never did scare me. I just, too busy trying to deal with everything I was dealing with.
Jeffrey would spend a few days in the hospital, but he is alive.
I thank the Lord for saving me. Because, I thought I was gone.
Now in a new home.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
On that same parcel he almost died.
I couldn't believe it. It was just a miracle.
Jeffrey has found peace in the land and the mountains that surround this valley. Kevin Kennedy, WCNC Charlotte.
Just incredible. Well, Hurricane Helene caused lasting changes to woods, creeks, and ecosystems. Teams at App State, in fact, are studying those changes from the tree canopy to where the salamanders are.
There's significant, we call them like canopy gaps now because the trees are down,
what that will do to the forest floor community. Will that open it up for more species to colonize, and so more of those maples, those pines or beeches or cherries? That's one thing that could be intriguing. And what we've seen is that those channels, even though it goes back to those, they are significantly different. Like there's a lot of silt and a lot of deposition of sand in some areas where my children like to swim. And that area now, we don't see as many fish.
John Davenport with App State has been studying North Carolina's ecology for 2 decades and says the shifts he's seeing after Helene are unlike anything he's seen before. But he does say it is still way too early to know the true impact on the ecosystem.
Hurricane Helene wiped out nearly 1,000 different bee colonies. One fully established hive can hold nearly 80,000 bees. Here in Mecklenburg County, beekeepers are working to rebuild what the storm took, carefully transporting bees and equipment hours up the road.
Not just the honeybees, but the bumblebees and all the rest of the pollinators, they were all lost, and there wasn't anything for them to forage. The trees, the vegetation, all that stuff was removed through that storm. So it's reestablishing everything for them.
Mecklenburg County beekeepers have delivered more than 102 colonies to western North Carolina.
Well, Hurricane Helene destroyed breweries along the French Broad River in Asheville, but 1 year later, they are open for business. They are asking for your support.
And there's just 3 months left until Christmas, so are tree farmers ready? We'll take you to 2 local farms to see what you could expect this holiday season.
And a bit later, a baby born right after the storm is about to celebrate her first birthday, which she and her mom have been up to since being rescued off the side of the mountain before delivery.
Hurricane Helene left many North Carolina businesses destroyed, including breweries along the French Broad River in Asheville. WCNC Charlotte's Walker Lawson shows us how these businesses are brewing up a new beginning.
Along the French Broad River, a sense of normalcy is pouring back in.
People are still telling us how excited they are to see us back open.
After months of cleanup, Highwire Brewery has reopened its doors.
So out here is our beer garden that was basically in the middle of our parking lot after the storm.
Last year, water nearly swallowed the building, washing away millions of dollars and leaving behind a muddy mess.
We did put a plaque up here on the wall where we think the water line was. That's where the mud ended.
For Christine Ferguson, the director of retail operations, it once felt like every pint of hope had been swept away.
It kind of took your breath away the first time you saw the water and the extent of the damage that it did.
But piece by piece, and with community support, Highwire returned to the river.
I think that sparked hope in a lot of people in town.
Next door at Wedge Brewery, hope is still fermenting as cleanup continues. The owner, Tim Schaller, sees opportunity in the rubble.
So what I've seen is you get a chance to do things that you wanted to do before you would never stop to do. So I've rebuilt this garden, rearranging stuff inside. We're taking less space inside. So just being forced to take a step back and say, okay, what do I want to do? Not just get open, but how do you do it right? And like I say, at 79, this is probably the last one I'll do, so I get to do it really well.
His wish is simple, to see visitors back at the bar stools.
Well, fall is always wonderful in Asheville, and downtown is open, the River Arch is open, and it's just come on down and we're going to have a good party and we know how to do it, so join us.
Reporting in Asheville, Walker Lawson, WCNC Charlotte.
Well, Christmas is just 3 months away. A big question right now is whether Christmas tree farmers are ready. We'll show you what to expect this holiday season. Hurricane Helene tore through western North Carolina farmland, leaving many Christmas tree farmers scrambling to see what they could save. But this year, growers say they're back on track and they are ready for the holiday season with Christmas just 3 months away.
WCNC Charlotte's Anna King traveled to western North Carolina to meet those farmers who weathered the storm and are now looking ahead with hope.
Right after it happened, our biggest concern was, are we going to be able to harvest the Christmas trees?
Hurricane Helene hit hard last year, washing out roads, damaging infrastructure,
and taking thousands of trees with it.
Well, we actually lost approximately 6,000 to 8,000 trees that literally slid off the mountain.
Ronnie Beam is the farm manager at Cartner Christmas Tree Farm in Avery County. He says getting the trees that did survive to market became another challenge.
It had damaged so many of our roads and culverts been washed out, and we were really concerned that we couldn't even get the tractor and trailers to our loading dock.
And at Helms Christmas Tree Farm in Lincoln County, strong winds from Helene took out years of hard work.
We had a lot of wind damage. A lot of trees blowed over in the yard.
Their biggest loss, the tallest trees.
The smaller trees, the 5, 6, 7s, didn't get bothered. It was the 10 and 12-foot trees is the ones that went down.
But after a long year of repair and regrowth, these farms are seeing green again.
We are so thankful. We're looking so much better this year. Helene did make it very difficult for us, but this year we feel excited, and we've got a lot of trees to sell and a lot of trees to move, and we're excited about this year's harvest.
Farmers say customers returning this holiday season won't even notice a difference.
They'll see no damaged trees out here. All of that's been removed. That's what they're going to see, the perfect tree like we've always had.
Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
After the break, we check in with a woman who gave birth right after Helene. We check up on her to see what they've both been up to since being rescued from the side of a mountain before delivery. It's been almost a year since the community came together to help a woman who was about to go into labor and was trapped in her mountain community in the days after Hurricane Helene barreled through.
We first told you about Courtney Mosier and baby Maya back in November. And tonight, WCNC Charlotte's Michelle Bowden shares a sweet update on how the two are doing.
This is a story that got a lot of attention. A woman there in Asheville rushed from the mountains to the Charlotte area to have her baby in an emergency situation, and women and people, families in Charlotte all rallied together to make sure that the woman, the baby, and her family were safe.
Maya, would you like to come be on TV? Whoa. Oh my gosh. Oh, hi.
You just have to roll with it when you're doing a Zoom interview with a 9-month-old and her big brother, and the mom trying to juggle them both.
Hi. You've gotten so much bigger. Do you love where you're living?
Let's rewind.
Well, it's been a really eventful year.
You may remember Courtney Mosier, the mom who was trapped in the mountains with a scheduled C-section for a breached baby when Hurricane Helene hit.
At the very entrance, there was a sinkhole that was like 40 feet deep, and there was maybe 4 feet of road left.
So you couldn't get past that?
There was no way.
Charlotte Dr. CJ Atkinson from Novant Health helped get her onto a helicopter and brought her here to have her baby.
I said to her, do you trust me? And she appropriately said, well, I just met you. And so I rephrased it and said, okay, I need you to trust me and get on this helicopter because we have a tight window to get off the mountain, and I'm not sure when we'll be able to come back.
A group of moms on Facebook heard about Courtney and gave her and her family a home to stay in for a month and much more.
The porch was filled with clothes for Dylan, clothes for me, clothes for her.
After a month, they went back to Asheville only to find there was a hole in their roof that meant almost everything in their home was moldy.
So we can either start over, or we can take this as an opportunity to be a little bit lighter and travel for a bit. A lot of things that I got rid of, I would have rather not have. And I probably never would have. But now that I was forced to, I think it's a good thing.
They moved to Canada, where they've been working remotely most of the year.
I think that we had always talked about living like this at some point, like going and like having this experience. But I think that had we not been forced to, it would have always been too hard, too overwhelming to think about the idea of packing everything up and getting it and doing it. But now we were forced to, and so we did.
And she says baby Maya and big brother Dylan are thriving.
So she likes to pull up to standing. She likes to say, well, Dylan likes to go ba 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 to her, and she goes ba 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 back to him.
She says she thinks about their time in Charlotte and all the help they received almost daily.
Overwhelming gratitude sounds kind of cliche, but that really is where we're at.
Courtney says she's hoping to be back in the Charlotte area in time for Maya's first birthday. Of course, that's right around the 1-year anniversary of the flooding. She says she wants to thank everyone that helped her in person. Michelle Bowden, WCNC Charlotte.
As you saw, the spirit of Western North Carolina is strong. Many people, businesses, and nonprofits have worked over the last 365 days to rebuild, but many of them say they don't want to be forgotten and they still need your help. Here at WCNC Charlotte, we promise to keep them in the limelight and make sure that they know that you are here to help. If you want to contribute in any way, please go to our website, WCNC.com, or our WCNC app to figure out how you can help contribute to keep the rebuild going. Thanks for watching Hurricane Helene 1 year later.